Hey everybody, Bryce Koon here with the Crowded Booth. We're back with another episode as the Braves haven't won a series yet, but they look ahead to the return of Ronald Acuña Jr., who's finishing up his rehab assignment. We're going to talk about the Braves, and we're also going to talk more about Ronald Acuña and what he's going to bring to this lineup. That and more on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Happy Monday, everybody, or to Braves fans, just a regular Monday, I guess, Ralph. Ralph, how you doing, sir? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, honestly, but I'm doing good. Long week last week. Felt like it took forever. Honestly, it was really slow for everybody, but glad it's over and look forward to some good weekends coming up.
Some good weekends indeed. Ralph, Leary, Bryce, Koon, if you're listening on the radio, we appreciate it as well. If you're watching over on YouTube, hit the subscribe button to the channel. There we go. We got that right. Ralph, let's talk a little bit about this Atlanta Braves team. The Braves, obviously came in with they weren't expected to open the season at home, and then when everything got pushed back, they ended up opening up against the Reds. And it's safe to say they just kind of played about lackluster outfield defense, a little bit of inconsistent pitching. We've seen some very, very good starts. Most notably, Kyle Wright has been very, very impressive. Ian Anderson has struggled a little bit. Max Fried has at times. That stint out in L.A. was unbelievable what he did. But Ralph, as they just wrapped up a weekend series against the Marlins, there's this big misconception that the Marlins are a terrible, terrible team. They're not at all. This is a team you and I have talked a lot about. They have very, very good pitching. It's young, but they've got very good pitching. And also, Ralph, they made some additions in the offseason. They got Avisail Garcia from Milwaukee. They got Jorge Soler, obviously. And then they have their own guys. Jazz Chisholm, one of the most exciting players in baseball to watch. I mean, they've got a lot of young guys, and they're talented. So this series loss, I mean, yes, you could say Atlanta should have done some things differently. What did you take away from this weekend, though? I mean, the Marlins are a good team, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think it comes down to just basic hitting for the Braves. I feel like they just kind of lackluster at the plate right now. Everyone starts out slow eventually, though. No one's coming off hitting, five or having 5 hits a game. It's just not possible.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, the pitching has looked almost incredible. I'd say it's up there with the best pitcher we've seen so far, starting wise with Kyle Wright. Bryce had his bad game yesterday. He walked a lot of people. Couldn't really find a plate. But other than that, he's pitched really well all season. You got a lot of young guys pitching right now for the Braves, and Charlie Morton's. He's still finding his stuff. He still looks good. Max Fried out in LA looked incredible, and it's a few things from the series. I take away just kind of lackluster hitting. I mean, Austin Riley had a mammoth home run. Dad's back basically is what you would say.
Yeah, they've put together a lot of home runs. A lot of them have been solo shots. Alex Dickerson had like the first one since Austin Riley's on opening night. There was not a solo shot. I mean, this is a lot of guys, and I think the biggest thing is just getting on base. And a big part of that, Ralph, is the bottom part of the order has been struggling. Eddie Rosario, we talked about it, and we had actually someone comment in the video that said he thinks he could hit 30 home runs. Listen, Rosario has done that before, but I think that it's sometimes it's easy to look at what he did in the postseason, but you've also got to realize that is a very small sample size, what he did. Still a good player, but, everything will average out, but he hasn't been doing very well. Dansby over the past 2 or 3 days, Ralph, has started to turn up. He's had some big hits. He's been able to square some stuff up. And then a guy like Alex Dickerson that has seen times of DH. He had the home run the other night, Ralph. I was looking at this. He's got one of the hardest hit rates in baseball right now, but he has like the lowest average. So stuff like that's going to balance out. That's why I'm not really too worried. But when you have the bottom 3 or 4 in your order that are not producing, it's really tough to mount a rally. And I think that's one of the biggest things I'm seeing is Atlanta can't put together a consistent rally. Maybe they get a hit here. That's why they have so many solo shots, and that's the reason they'll be able to score right now. They got a lot of power, but I think as the season goes on, like you said, we have to remember these guys had a short spring. So getting back into the swing of things, I think maybe as the calendar turns to May, that's really going to see what was originally the start of the season probably for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I mean it's just going to be a slow start. I mean, you look at the Mets; they're the first to win 10 games. That does not mean they're going to win the division and win the World Series. It's not going to be the Mets versus Blue Jays. The Blue Jays might win, 100 games. They're a good team, but you know, every team has their slow starts. Every team has their slow month, their rough month. And people on Twitter say April's a slow month for the Braves. Well, I mean, who isn't it? I mean, you get 2 weeks of spring training. You play, a few games. Pitching staff gets probably a total of combined 8 innings, 9 innings at most, and out of your bullpen plus your starting rotation. And some of these guys really didn't play enough in spring training due to a lot of young guys who got to play more and are not there in the major leagues. So, um, like I said, I'm not worried like at Bryce. It's just no reason to worry about anything right now. Because the next 3 weeks the Braves can win 20 something games and lose five. It's just it's baseball.
Yeah, it's baseball. It's going to happen. And like what you said, too, about the guys who are pitching well were not a part of the 40-man roster. So they were able to play the full amount of spring training, essentially have those minor league games they're playing against. I've got a stat for you, Ralph, that is really interesting. So obviously OPS, if you're not familiar with OPS, it's slugging plus your on-base percentage combined. Austin Riley sits at a shade under 1,000 right now, 984. He's been very, very good. His 451 expected on base average ranks third. Now that accounts a lot to his hard hit rate, all these different things. But what it says is I think that Austin Riley has bared the weight a lot of this lineup through the early part of the season. That's a positive. Another stat that people are talking about, especially on the broadcast side of things, is Marcell Ozuna, which has like one of the highest barrel rates in the National League. Which what does that tell you, Ralph? It means that he's not swinging and missing at a lot of stuff, and when he's making contact, he's making good contact. And listen, I'll take that because eventually that kind of stuff's going to even out, like you said. Let's go back and talk about some of this pitching stuff, though, because obviously Kyle Wright has been nothing short of amazing, Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
What he's been able to do, dating back to the World Series, seemingly for me, the 26-year-old is 27-year-old, however old he is, he's figured it out. He's sitting right now with a 2-0 record, 1.06 ERA. Now, listen, it's a long season. There's no doubt about it. But when you look at what he's been able to do, he entered this year, kind of this was the year. And we talked about it kind of in our preview of the pitching staff as we were going to figure out this year, what does Kyle Wright look like? And the former first round pick has, in my opinion, been a big piece to the reason Atlanta has 7 wins. He's got 2 of the wins on his own. He started 3 games. Ralph, this right here is crazy to me. 26 strikeouts, okay,
Mm-hmm.
compared to 2 walks in 17 innings of work. He's not only just making great pitches, but he's striking guys out. He's fooling them. I sent you a tweet the other day, pitching ninja Rob Friedman. I think it was a slider. Holy
Mm-hmm.
cow. I mean, Kyle
Yeah.
Wright stuff looks filthy.
Yeah, he definitely has, and I think, like you said a minute ago, this was the year that either was make it break it for Mount Kyle Wright. And I think he's really made it, and I'm happy for it. Honestly, I posted on Twitter the other day. I officially take back everything I've said about Kyle Wright in my lifetime here, and watching him play. He's worked hard. A guy who's been through the ringer a lot. Has been one good start one day and comes back next start and just gets wrecked. I mean, you look at the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs in 2020 when he pitched incredible against the Marlins in the playoff game, and he get pitched against the Dodgers and it got shelled.
Yeah.
It's how baseball goes, and it happens. It happens to the best of them. So Kyle Wright, has looked great, looked dominant. He looks like he's been kind of the most consistent pitcher the Braves has. And honestly, Bryce, even thought it was kind of funny. In 2020, he pitched in 8 games. He did for 38 innings. He had 30 strikeouts and 24 walks. Now he's not close to 38 innings, but he's 11 innings away. He has 26 strikeouts and 2 walks so far.
That's pretty good.
That's definitely working on some things and getting your pitches, in the right spot. And I want to say one thing about Kyle Wright and Brian Snicker the other night. Uh, he had it was basically a bases loaded, two
Mm-hmm.
outs. It was bottom of the fifth or top of the fifth with, you know, close to pitch count. Bases loaded. He walks. Snicker walks out there. Everyone thinks he's going to pull one and bring someone in for the 1 out, and he kind of just walked away. He said, talked to him for about 2 seconds, walked away, gave him the out, gave him the inning. This is yours, go get it. And he went and got a ground out and ended the inning. That shows you a lot of confidence that Snicker has in him.
Yeah, Snicker has a lot of confidence in him. The reason being he's got a 1.06 ERA. He's been very, very good. A K rate of 13.8 per 9. Now, if it's a team pitching wise that has a combined 4.59 ERA, that's a little elevated because of Waskari Noah's struggles, a guy like Ian Anderson. But those things are going to come back out. I'll tell you one thing, Charlie Morton's not going to have a 6.32 ERA at the end of the season. All that stuff's going to balance itself out. So when we look at what the Braves have to do, what they've been doing, they're 7-10 in the season. They're getting ready for a stretch, Ralph. As I look at the schedule here, they just finished up a series with the Marlins. They've got a series with the Cubs this week during the midweek, and then they go to Texas to take on the Rangers as they turn the calendar into May. And then it's on the road to the Mets. That's going to be a fun series, a 3-day, 4-game series next week, not this week, next week, before coming back home for a week and a half long homestand. Ralph, I think heading into this week against the Cubs, it would be huge if they could win this series to give them some momentum heading into a Rangers team that's got I don't even know what the Texas Rangers are right now. To me, they're just like this star-studded middle infield with some decent players around them. And then obviously you have the Mets, the first to 10 wins print the T-shirts, as our friend Clayton Shirley said. But in my opinion, Ralph, I think this team's okay. They're going to be okay. And the biggest thing is going to be the return of Ronald Acuña. Ronald Acuña Jr. is going to be coming back here soon. We're going to talk about that more when we come back here on the Credit Booth.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place, fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
Back here in the crowded booth, we're talking about the Atlanta Braves and the return of Ronald Acuña Jr., which is imminent. Ralph was talking just earlier. He's probably got a little more this week of some rehab opportunities. He was in Jacksonville all week last week down there against one of the best names in minor league baseball, the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. But, Ralph, this is a team that at the top part of the order, I'm not worried about them. You know, you got Marcell Ozuna, Ozzie Albies, who's hitting like a silver slugger. Also, Ozzie Albies has almost as many home runs as he does singles. I don't know what that says about him this year, but it's interesting. Matt Olson, a 355 average. He's been tearing the cover off the baseball. Austin Riley's there. And so you have Ozuna, Albies, Olson, Riley. That's 4. Now, where the struggles have come, Ralph, and then you have a guy like Travis d'Arnaud that is batting .311, but 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. But in my opinion, Travis d'Arnaud's value is more of working with these young pitchers, and he's like a auxiliary piece. Like he doesn't need to be the forefront of your offense. But between guys like Dansby Swanson, Eddie Rosario, Alex Dickerson, Guillermo Heredia, Travis DeMeritt, we saw him come up. There's seemingly opportunities for some at-bats until Acuña got back. When Acuña gets back, Ralph, the expectation that he might be DHing a little bit because I think this is the biggest thing. They know how Acuña plays. Acuña plays one speed, and it is,
1,000%.
1,000%. And so I think they're going to want to rein that in a little bit just by the fact they know how he plays, make sure that he's completely okay. But you have a guy like Eddie Rosario. Orlando Arcia has been a nice little bright spot for the Braves, batting .269 on the season. But to me, the situation is you're going to see the bench, which hasn't really been a strength. But even with the DH, Ralph, you don't really need the bench to be a strength anymore. No. Because you're not going to a pinch hitter. But the bench is going to be strengthened by the addition of Acuña to the lineup because it's going to move one of those guys there. Ozuna can play, it can be the DH, focus on hitting, that's where he's obviously best at. And then you insert Acuña into right field, Duvall into center. Duvall's got some offensive things to figure out as well. I mean, he's not lighting it up by any means. What is your biggest takeaway of kind of what does Acuña's insertion back into the lineup mean for this team?
Well, I mean, I think if you watch the Braves in the past few weeks and just watch them in the past few years also and what the addition of Acuña has done to this dugout and brings kind of a life to it. It kind of jolts the energy back into the lineup. He's a flashy player. The Braves really don't have one right now on the roster who are playing right now because, Ozzie's he's a nice guy,
Yeah.
So Ozzie's not going to go out there and hit a home run and, showboat. Acuña's going to hit one and he's going to throw the bat somewhere. He's going to dance a little bit, and, he's going to strut. And that brings a little life to the stadium, and it brings life to the dugout. And that's what he does, and that's how he is. And it's nothing, short of, people think that's bad for baseball or it's not a good thing. it's big. It helps the sport grow. You watch like some videos on the internet of these kids in high school and even little league. They hit a home run, they throw the bat now. They struggle a little bit because they watch these guys, and that's what Acuña does. He brings that that jolt of energy to the stadium, to the team, and it goes beyond his play style. It goes to what he can do to help this team just get better and get to where we know they can be at.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing to me, Ralph, is the fact that you're going to be putting him back at the top of the lineup. Brian Snickers already said that that's what they want to do. And what does that do? By definition, it lengthens your lineup. You and I were texting with our good friend Sam the other day, who's obviously been on the show once before, that when you add Acuña to the top, it's going to knock the pecking order back down. And I think I put in the text group chat about the little stat about Ozzie Albies and what he's been able to do. His best opportunities and his best sample size is when he's batting in the 3-hole. If you gave me a top 3, Ralph, of Acuña, Olsen, and Albies, but then Riley and Ozuna, that is nasty. And I'm going to tell you this too. That's your first 5. Guys like d'Arnaud are going to go back to average where he usually sits. A guy like Rosario, you would hope, would do the same. Swanson's going to do the same as well. I'm going to say this again about Dansby Swanson as we turn the conversation to this, and I agree with what you said about Acuña. Dansby Swanson, in my opinion, Ralph, is too talented to bat 180 for a whole season. You joked with this before this is what he does. This might be the worst start he's ever had to a season, but this is who he is. And when you look at the financials and you look at everything else, we're going to see what he commands in the offseason. My thing with this situation is that I don't know how or where you go to improve that's realistic. There's talk of potential Braden Shoemake. That's another episode for another day. We'll talk about that. But in my opinion, Ralph, just settling with that, if you give me that top 5 with Acuña back in the lineup, the 6 through 9 is going to find its way. Like we're going to figure that out somehow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that Dansby Swanson does offensively that will make you kind of angry or make you disappointed what we've seen him do in the past. But is one thing he's grown is his plate discipline. Obviously, it looks kind of rough right now. It's early in the season. It's going to look rough. It's okay.
It used to be bad.
Yeah, it used to be it used to be a lot worse. He's also growing in more walks every year by year, and I think that shows you how he's grown as a hitter. But his defensive ability is one of the top in major leagues. I mean, him roaming at shortstop and then having Ozzie Albies in second base. I mean, I put him up there as the best duo in baseball. You really can't combine anyone else who has a better duo than that. They're best friends. They work well together. Dansby Swanson is a defensive master. He can make plays that we wouldn't think most average shortstops can make. Make it look like it's easy. I'm not worried about Dansby. He's gonna hit 250, 260, and that's all I need out of him. His clutch ability brings him up to like almost a 310 hitter when it's runs in scoring position and it's late in the game. I want Dansby at the bat because why not? He's hitting.
Well, and he proved that the other day, Ralph, on Saturday night when Atlanta was trailing, and that game was back and forth. The pitching kind of let us down. But I think the biggest thing is that you saw was he came up with 2 strikes and 2 outs in the inning, and he served a single to left field. And Jim Powell, one of the Braves radio guys, he said, listen, I don't care if the guy's batting $180, which is what he was at the time. He's still a guy that you want in that situation, and he's proved that over his 5-year career. And so I think it's just really interesting to see. But nonetheless, Ralph, this team has not won a series yet. I promise you they're going to win a series at some point. It could change here against the Cubs. It's going to be interesting to see Seiya Suzuki come into town. Obviously, a guy that has been very, very good for Chicago. They've got a couple of nice pieces, not really expected to contend this year. It would be nice if Atlanta could take 2 out of 3 or sweep it. And I'll leave it right here with you with this, Ralph. Bobby Cox said, hey, if you take 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 every single series, you're going to win 100 games. We'll take that more often than not. This is an episode of The Crowded Booth. A couple things before we let you go. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because I think around 90% of you watch our stuff. You're not subscribed. Let's get that number up. We appreciate you tuning in on the radio as well. Follow us on social media and head it over to thecrowdedbooth.com where you can get articles, more info, more news, as well as our shows that are posted there as well. Completely free to get that subscription right into your email inbox. Ralph Leary and Bryce Koon, we say so long. We'll talk to you again. We're going to be talking college football the next time you see us here on The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. crowded booth with Bryce Koon.